Yeah. I think we have everyone.
Yeah, no, you have. That's fine.
All right, what we'll do is what we always do is if you have a question, please raise your hand. Who's the first up? Little boy over here.
Yes.
Yeah, he does talk a lot.
Yeah. I have no idea what people are saying. Yes, Anthony, what can I do for you?
My brother got this toy and it says Chatter Beast is in the movie. Is that your dog?
This is from the later movie. Yeah, we were talking about this. My proper full story is Chatterer was always the family dog of Pinhead and the female Cenobite. And Buttle, that's the way Clive had originally envisaged the Chatterer. That's what Clive told me.
Wasn't in the script.
I wasn't in the script, it's just what Clive told me. So the idea was that Chatterer was this kind of agile, leaping monkey type thing. And then they put the costume on me and it was leather and I could hardly move in it. And then they put the makeup on and I couldn't hear, speak or see. And that was when we changed our complete thoughts about how Chatterer was going to work. So, yeah, I think that's a good call. I describe him as Chatterer's pet. I like the idea that Chatterer has a pet dog, actually. I think that's cool. I like that. Yeah, does that answer the question? Thank you.
So if I'd known this in the first movie, every time you were standing there chattering your teeth, I could have been saying, "Shut up, bitch!"
Over here.
Claire,
Yes, darling.
I promise I won't cry like I did earlier.
You cry as much as you like, honey. You're among friends here.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate shoulder checking you earlier and actually getting to see you and hug you. My question is, in Hellraiser 2,
Yeah.
the lovely, lovely, lovely dress and gauze. Were you wearing dentures, or was there a stand-in for that? Ooh.
I wore no dentures.
I was really paying attention, and she has really straight teeth when she comes up out of that mattress.
Still straight. Listen, they're not American teeth, they're English teeth.
Oh!
Okay, who else has a question? Right here.
Can you guys talk a little bit about Clive and what he brought to you in the role?
Ooh. Ooh.
Each one.
So, should we start at that end?
Oh, thank you. What did it do?
Or I'll jump in if you like.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, just do as you're told, Nick. One of your favourite lines. We did talk about what Chatterer is and what he's about and this whole idea of who's going to play the role and so on. And then it was just a question of being on set and working. Somebody was asking me today about the classic scene when Chatterer enters and puts his fingers down Ashley's throat. And they asked, did we make up? No, that was Clive's idea. And I remember working at it, choreographing it and so on, just making sure it's absolutely right, that we got his vision. This is Clive's piece of work, Hellraiser. It's absolutely Clive's vision, I think. Yeah, that's how he helped me. I did as I was told.
I think that the reason we're all here is because of Clive's amazing ingenuity and creativity and his vision. And we were just saying that today at dinner, and we gave a little toast to Clive because we would love to have seen him. I think that reading the Hellbound Heart novella was very, woo! Yay for Hellbound Heart novella. It was really interesting for me, playing a female Cenobite, that the drawing in the 20th anniversary is of a female Cenobite, and she was the lead.
I suggest you look at the credits in the movie.
No, I'm talking about in the book, the Cenobite that first Kirsty first sees is female.
Exactly.
And it's very kind of graphic. So,
Grey,
you know.
gleaming,
Right?
grey, gleaming,
Yeah, yeah.
vulva exposed.
Yeah, thank you. Anyway, but when I first got on set, I hadn't met Clive, and my one bit of direction from Tony Randall on Hellbound part, no, Hellbound, was that I said, "What's my motivation?" And he said, "You're dead." And you know, that's the only sort of help he gave me in the whole thing. But that was okay because I had just gotten off a plane. My flight had been delayed 24 hours. So I drove from Heathrow to Pinewood and then sat for 4 hours getting my makeup done. So by the time I got in front of the cameras at 6 in the evening, I'd been up for, how many hours is that? 24 hours. So I was done. But it was wonderful. It was an extraordinary experience. And I never would have guessed in a million years that 24 years later, we'd be here talking about this film and seeing a room full of enthusiastic people who really care, it's starting to get emotional, about this wonderful, you know, brainchild of Clive's that, you know, was born in, you know, Crouch End. And that's where you can take over.
Thank you. Well, I also lived in Crouch End.
That's where you filmed it, right?
No, Cricklewood.
Oh, Cricklewood.
He brought everything, really, for me. I mean, I've said that before that I probably found 95% of what I was doing with Pinhead sitting in front of the mirror with the makeup on for the first time. But before that, there was lots of discussion with Clive, and I'm approaching playing a part that I know that he has literally dreamt up. And I had conversations with him in which he told me that Pinhead was a cross between a monk and a butcher. That I should think of him as a surgeon in a hospital in which there were no wards, only operating theatres. And that as well as being the surgeon who wielded the knife, he was also responsible for keeping everything running on time. So, I mean, those are imaginative insights that you're not going to get anywhere else, really, and they're invaluable. You can't necessarily do a lot with them as an actor straight away, but as you're reading the script and approaching it, and then of course I read the script, and Clive has given me 1 or 2 decent lines. And there was a step change between the language he'd employed for almost all the other characters, and the Cenobites and Pinhead in particular. So I ran across lines like, "No tears, please, it's a waste of good suffering." And
Exactly. Exactly.
For an actor, lines like that would jump off the page. So everything, really. And then he has complete faith in you, and he thinks on his feet, and he always has a solution. And I really only got one note for him when we started, which was do less, do less, do less, do less, do less, which is difficult. Again, as an actor, you start to feel as though you're just standing still, moving your mouth. And in a way, that's exactly what he was trying to make me do. What he was saying was, trust me, if you are standing there doing nothing with that makeup on, by the time that is 20 feet high on the screen, it's working overtime on your behalf.
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
everything would be the short answer to your question, really.
My first experience with Clive and Butterball was he said there might be a little bit of makeup involved. An understatement. He did talk beforehand about Butterball being or the fat Cenobite as it was on the script, as being the torturer of the Cenobites, which is why I had a belt with loads of torture implements.
And you did.
But I don't think that really ever came out in the film. Once we actually got down to wearing the makeup and on set, because I got 2 inches of foam latex over my ears eyes, nose and mouth, well, the dentures in my mouth, Clive's direction was kind of... and my reaction would be... He would then come back with... So it was an interesting experience. The best thing, though, Clive gave me during the filming was I got very upset wearing the makeup because it was like sensory deprivation for 14 hours a day. And one day I got very upset, just sitting with my own thoughts, and cried, broke down and cried, and not a soul noticed. It's a complete waste of good suffering. Clive seemed to kind of sense this, and the best thing he gave me was a bottle of Jack Daniels with a straw.
Clive, oh my God, I turned this movie down when it was first offered to me. And it was only when I met Clive, after 20 minutes of talking with Clive, I said, I'm in. And the only reason for that was he had the best imagination of anyone I've ever met. He gave me permission. He said, this is better than Shakespeare. He was right. It goes deeper into people's hearts and minds and souls and allows them to express themselves in a way that very few other people have ever given permission. And I just, Julia to me was a joy.
Woo!
I have never laughed so much in my life. For one thing.
You were great!
Oh, darling, I love you! Clive gave me permission to go further than anyone ever has. And I was saying to someone the other day, I'm going to this convention. I went, why? I said, you know why? Because everybody here is more mentally healthy than the people out there. And that's because we have the gift of imagination, exploration. Clive really nailed that for me. He gave me permission. And I think he's given all of us permission to be here, to be ourselves, to go wild in our imaginations. And it's absolutely beautiful. I'm just so sorry he's not here. But he's here in spirit, and yeah, that's the gift of him. He's an extraordinary.
There's a question from a young gentleman over there. Sorry, guys.
Stand in the chair. Yeah, stand up here. You got
This
it.
question is for Claire. Of course. Did you enjoy your work on Golden Compass?
I did, actually. I have to be honest with you, I haven't seen it yet.
It was wonderful.
I
You did
haven't
great.
seen it yet, and I don't know why. It's just that, you know, you make a movie and it gets released a year and a half later and they onto something else, and I seriously just haven't sat down and watched the DVD. But I loved making the movie. It was a journey into imagination. That kind of imagination that only really, those imaginative minds, Philip Pullman, to me has a lot in common with Clive. They go beyond the boundary. They make it safe for you and they allow you to travel there. So I will think of you when I watch it.
What's the second part?
Hey.
He's got a second part. He wants to know, are you looking forward to Amber Spyglass?
If we're allowed to make it, yeah.
We're crossing our
Because
fingers.
the religious right in America didn't want this movie to be made. And I guess that's why we're all here. You know, we're not them, so.
Exactly.
The guy in the front row with no hair? Yes, you. Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Brilliant, thank you.
Good, good.
Thank you, Dave Hagans, for putting this on.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you.
This is more of a request from Doug and maybe Claire. Would you tell the story of how Doug Bradley nearly didn't get part of Pinhead, which is wonderful. This is amazing.
I have never. This is the first time that Claire and I have ever shared a convention, shared a platform. I have seen Claire in the interim since the last day in Hellbound, but I was sitting in the stalls in the West End watching her work, particularly Vincent in Brixton. Wonderful. I was asked by Clive if I would help screen test both Ashley and a couple of Julies. Screen tested Ashley. I've never shared this story with you. I screen tested an earlier Julia. Then Claire emerged from her dressing room, and I wanted to say to Clive at that point, you don't need to bother with this. This is it. There was a look in your eye that was bothering me.
In the best possible way.
We're on the soundstage at Cricklewood Production Village, and they'd set up a big block of foam, which was taped to the wall. I was playing the victim with the weak bladder. So my job is only to walk in and say, I need a pee, and you tell me where the loo is, and I turn around to exit. Although we're not exiting, I turn around, I drop out of frame, and Claire swings the hammer and hits the block of foam.
As you do.
We duly did it. I drop out of frame and I hear thwack. And then there was a long pause, and a slightly nervous voice from behind the camera somewhere said, cut. And I came up, and I'm looking at Selwyn Roberts and Clive and Robin Vidgeon behind the camera, all just going. And I was saying, what, is there a problem? And they said, no, it's no problem. We don't need to do that again, that's fine. And Selwyn whispered to me, she missed you by that much. I think that was when they knew they had their Julie. So I've always said that in a parallel universe, there is a history of horror films in which they talk about Hellraiser, and there's an asterisk. And the footnote says, the role of Pinhead was originally intended to be played by Doug Bradley, who was unfortunately killed in an accident during the screen test for Claire Higgins, the actress who should have played Julia, but was unable to do so because she spent the next 20 years in prison for manslaughter.
I have a footnote to that when we actually filmed the bloodiest scene in the movie, and I loved it. I don't need therapy, honey. That was my therapy. I turned around and all these big sparks and all the guys on the movie, these big guys who used to hump stuff around the lights and all the rest of it. There was a sign that they wouldn't meet my eye. I said, how's it going? They went, they couldn't look at me. For 2 days, those guys walked around me, they wouldn't look at me, they wouldn't come near me. They were scared shitless.
Right here.
Mr. Bradley, your work is phenomenal or fantastic. I would love if you would entertain us with a brief...
I'll buy you another drink later.
I would love if you would entertain us with a brief story of your interactions with Danny Davey and Cradle of Filth regarding the Midian album.
Oh, okay. Very simple, really. I kind of vaguely already knew Danny, and I liked him. I know this is terrible thing for a horror icon to admit, but I'm not particularly fond of death metal or heavy metal. Although I do think Cradle of Filth are among the best at what they do. I mean, it is very, very, it's as simple as this. I get a phone call from Faye Wolven, Cradle of Filth's manager. Danny was wondering if you would be interested in doing some spoken word contributions to their new album, Midian, which was kind of a tribute to Nightbreed and to Clive's work generally. And I said, sure. So I went down to the studio in Battle in Sussex and spent half a day doing it. And Faye had said, you know, we'd love you to do it. There isn't very much money, but here's what we have. And I said, well, okay. And a bit of time goes by, and then I get a phone call from Faye saying they'd love you to do the next album, which was Nymphetamine, I think. Yes. A bit of time goes by, and then
Venom rules.
Faye phoned me and said, Danny would love you to do the next album, which is Thornography. And then I did Godspeed on the Devil's Thunder. Yes. At which point I was suggesting to Danny that they were changing their name to Doug Bradley and Cradle of Filth. Since they were now clearly just becoming my backing band. I obviously pissed him off because he didn't ask me to do the last album. I think that was a woman-based album, I think. Yeah, but always good fun, and I do think Danny's a good writer. He's a funny guy too.
You should play her Ghost in the Fog right now.
Okay.
On the subject of heavy metal, I was invited to the Wacken in Germany 2 weeks ago, which is the biggest heavy metal festival open air in the world, 75,000 fans. And Doug, who did it last year, I emailed him and said, should I take Wellington boots?
Yes.
And he said, no, absolutely fine. The mud was this deep. But I decided while I was there that I think the Cenobites should start up a heavy metal band. I think we'd be exceptional.
Steph and I already have a fictitious heavy metal band. I came up with the name for it. It's called Acid Reflux. And their thing is they have a woman lead singer who's called Stella Fontanella. So we'll take it from there.
Okay. Wow.
You wanted us to do a version of Monster Mash.
Yeah, well, Monster Mash I thought was a good starting point, but I think heavy metal suits us more.
We can Monster Mash on that.
Yeah, I can do it.
That sounded more like Yoko Ono.
I thought it was more Yoko Ono.
Don't worry, Mummy. Don't worry, Kyoto. Mummy's only looking for her hand in the snow, I think was what.
We were talking about that earlier.
In the middle here? Go ahead.